he must have gained like 5-6 minutes on the swim and then another 12 to 14 minutes on the bike. So by the time he started his run, he was like at least 19 to 20 minutes ahead of me. I knew at that time, like when I started my run, I finished 1 kilometer, and I saw Pablo coming back at least 4.5 kilometers ahead of me. So I was like, it's okay, he's too far ahead. But I knew Vijay and Kishorjit are not too far, maybe 6-7 minutes I should be able to cover. If it is anywhere closer to 10 minutes, I can pull off for 7. If it is only a 7 minutes, I should be able to get to second position. Yeah, I was not into the race. I was not mentally ready, mentally tired, or felt like I was not enjoying it anymore. And then a few days after the race, I thought if I want to do it or not. I decided not to do it because I don't want to go there with this mindset. And irrespective of the result, I feel disappointed that because of my mental, I'm not mentally able to focus on the race. I'll not be able to give my best, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
And I'll get even more disappointed if that turns out to be a really a bad race.
I am Baiki Venki, and this is the Working Athlete Podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, time management, and lifestyle advice. This is something that interests you. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future episodes. Today's guest, Nihal Baig, is an IIT Bombay alumni working in Pune. He is a runner, a triathlete, and a coach who won this year's Ironman Goa 70.3 race with a timing of 4 hours 29 minutes. This is more than 13 minutes better than the previous winning time at the race in 2019 and about 17 minutes better than his time at the race in 2019 where he finished second overall. This is his second time at the podcast, and the first episode where he was on the podcast was episode number 25, where we covered Nihal's endurance journey so far until 2020. In this episode, I sat down with Nihal the day after the race and talked about his preparation leading up to the race and the race day experience itself. It was surprising to learn that his preparation was anything but ideal, but he still managed to set a personal best time for himself for the distance as well as best time for the event so far. The takeaway for me from this conversation is that if you continue to stay in the sport even through your bad days, you give yourself a chance to find your mojo again and give yourself a chance to do well. How, you ask? Let us get into the episode and hear it from the champ himself. Welcome to the Working Athlete Podcast, Nihal. It's a pleasure having you on the show again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me here.
So the first time we spoke on the podcast was episode 25. We did it online. I think it was more or less the height of pandemic.
Right.
Just before the second wave. Right. And here we are again. At that time, I think 2009 Goa 70.3, you finished second.
Right. 3 years back.
Right, 3 years back. And then we spoke about your run at ADHM.
NDM,
New Delhi Marathon. Yes. So here we are now after the second edition of Goa Triathlon, in Goa 70.3, which you have won quite emphatically. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So, how was the road to this event has been in terms of preparation?
Okay. So I had this had the registration for this event from 2020, and because post pandemic it got deferred twice, first to 2021 and then to 2022. And initially hadn't planned for this event. So I had only registered for the Berlin Marathon in September. So yeah, that was my prime focus at that time. And even from the start of the years, I was actually looking forward to Berlin Marathon. And since I was focusing more on run, I was doing quite not much swimming, but I was still doing a bit of riding just to cross train. But yeah, for some personal reason, I couldn't go to Berlin, and I was not. I felt like I had burned myself out before the race, so I was not in a position to mentally mentally go there and race in Berlin. So that's why I called it off a few weeks before the race, and yeah, I was of course going to do this race anyway, after Berlin as well. But yeah, it was since it was not in my radar as a main race, I was not specifically training for this, and so yeah, whatever I have done yesterday is purely based on my fitness that I have gained over last 3 years during pandemic.
Right. So let us go a little bit there with for the Berlin Marathon prayer. You said you thought you kind of burned out. What signals kind of indicated to you that you are not ready to put yourself through a marathon?
So yeah, to begin with, I had initially few sessions where I clearly lacked motivation or focus to push through those workouts. And it happens it happens sudden. I was initially really focused till mid of July, and even for most of July as well. And I did a race in August, half marathon as a preparatory race for Berlin, and that also went well. I was off by a minute or so from my target, but it was a good race. So I felt good, confident after the race. But then then I again resumed my. It's not like I completely stopped training, because it was just I didn't have that much time to to recover and stop training, and then to prepare again for the Berlin. So I got into training straight away the next day after that race, and a week or 2 weeks into after that, I had a couple of sessions where it was mostly interval sessions, and I've been doing this alone for the last 6 months at least. I'm doing most of my workout, in fact all of my workout alone. So sometimes it carry on. I was able to do that most of the time, but during those days I felt like I didn't have enough motivation to carry myself. I did push through because I know the race is coming. I don't have much time, so I don't really I can't skip my workouts. So it was crucial for me to stay on. But it then happened twice, thrice, 3, 4 times, and that's when I took that as a signal that I either need to do something to get my focus back on this, otherwise I'll not be able to perform well in the race.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried that. I tried doing that. I tried to remove other stresses in life, from work. I tried to reduce my amount of time that I spend on office work and other stresses. I tried that, but it didn't work. It was to an extent that one day I didn't feel like running at all. So.
Yeah, that's a good indication, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
So when I have lost, that motive to run, or I'm usually really excited about my runs, and when I lack that, I don't think it's a right call to continue.
Right.
And This is another half marathon, Hyderabad half marathon. I thought maybe after racing I'll feel better. So I did that again, and on that race day, like it was the first time that happened to me. Like I was never mentally into the race. I feel like I was just running for the sake of running. I was not able to focus on my paces, my strategy, or anything. So
The joy kind of.
yeah, I felt like I was not into the race. I was not mentally ready, mentally tired, or felt like I'm not enjoying it anymore. And then a few days after the race, I thought if I want to do it or not. I decided not to do it because I don't want to go there with this mindset. And irrespective of the result, I feel disappointed that because of my mental, I'm not mentally able to focus on the race. I'll not be able to give my best, and I don't want to do that. And I'll get even more disappointed if that turns out to be a really a bad race. So I thought it's not worth the risk. And again, if you don't enjoy it, doesn't make sense to do it. Especially marathon. Marathon is not a 5K or 10K. It's not going to get over in 30 minutes. You are there at least for 2.5 hours. That was I was targeting 225 or so. So I thought I cannot go on like this for 2 or 25 minutes without without my focus into the race.
It is never an easy decision, right? It is.
Yeah, I've been training for this all this year, right? So it was really difficult for me to take that decision, but in a way it was also easy for me because since I was not enjoying my runs, it doesn't make sense to do it.
That is a big signal.
Signal, right? So if you don't enjoy doing anything, it's time to stop, take your time off that, and probably resume when you feel like,
when that zeal comes back, that enjoyment, the feeling comes back.
So I think first week of September is when I decided to call it off. Then I stopped, running for 4-5 weeks.
4-5 weeks?
Yeah.
That's a big break.
But I thought,
and were you doing something else, like bike or something?
I stopped biking as well for 3 weeks. But I was swimming. I thought it's not a good idea to completely stop because I've been doing something or the other every day. And also, I thought I'll be, I'll overthink about this. So I need to do at least something. And I thought anyways, the Goa Ironman is there in 2 months. So I'll start, I'll resume my swimming and see how it goes. So after I decided not to go for Berlin, 3 weeks after that, I did a lot of swimming. Almost every day I tried to go to the pool and do a session. Initial 3 weeks was just to get back to the swimming fitness because I was not been swimming for 6 months at least. That's.
You are kind of fortunate in the sense because you are in tri, so you have one thing or the other to kind of fall back on. So if I decide to stop biking, I would maybe put on 10 kilos. So that's a good thing. Staying in the game, although you are not at the top of your mental or physical fitness, staying in the game one way or the other, as in doing easy stuff or something that you really have the feeling for. In this case, it became like swimming for you.
Yes.
So that is an important aspect as well, I think, right?
Definitely. So it's good to have a fallback. Also, something you can do. And I realized that when I resumed swimming, I was able to concentrate at least on what I'm doing in the swim. I was able to figure out what my weaknesses were. I had at least mentally noted down what I need to work on. So that I was keeping myself going, right? So I was I need to correct this. I need to fix this. So even though I was I was burnout, but again, I felt that because I was able to point out few things in the swimming, so I was able to put my focus on those areas,
Right.
and that helped me,
Kind of refocus
Refocus
on the
again.
journey ahead.
yes.
So then, kind of, how did if it was September, right? Then that gap, it wasn't much time to put in a proper preparation for this.
Right. So
how
yeah,
did
like
that-
I did swim for 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and then again, even after 3 weeks, I felt like I didn't feel like running or. I didn't cycle by the end of September. So and I thought I'll take some time off. I'll go back to my home. So I went home, took my bike there. So I thought at least because there's no pool there.
Where is home?
The home it's in Guntur, Guntur Vijayawada. So
Right.
I went there for 25 days actually. I was there from start of October till Diwali. Like
Right.
I was at home. I took my bike. I didn't have pools. I was not swimming again for another 25 days. I was doing a bit of endurance on the bike because again, then for the next 3 weeks I was doing a bit of cycling, getting back into cycling, and doing a lot of strength training. So
Right.
again, because I knew if I have stopped swimming now, I was really able to focus on swimming. I was getting my focus back, at least in swimming, right? So I thought if I stop now swimming, I might, I'll have to again, teach myself to, or at least push myself further to get back to the same fitness, right? So I was doing a lot of strength, mostly upper body strength, so that upper body and core strength, so that at least once
you
I'm
get
back
to the pool,
in Pune, I'll be able to at least maintain some form of fitness or at least build some strength, so that I can take it on from there, build it on from there.
Right.
So this October went by mostly on cycling endurance and some strength for both upper body and lower body, and so from 25th October to 10th November is again
Right.
15 days.
15
days.
Yeah.
But I actually did some specific triathlon training.
Mm-hmm.
So I started running after coming back. I was not doing any hard sessions. I didn't have enough time. For the first week, I was just doing, at least getting back. I was just pushing myself to get back to running, so that,
Right.
at least it will go well on the race day. Otherwise, if I don't run for 2 months straight,
And then run
on a race day, it will be terrible. It will be a terrible idea. So I pushed myself.
Right.
I was still not 100% focused on my running, but I was okay, I think the race is coming up. That will probably help me get back my focus in running as well. So I did that. And so last 10-15 days I was able to, I'll not say fully enjoy my runs, but at least I was able to do it I was at least able to do some running, and the last week I was able to also do a couple of hard sessions on the run. So basically it's just the 15 days of training that I've done before the Ironman Goa.
Right.
And I think
the one thing that kind of strikes me is it is we think that looking at people who are doing well, right, in the races and stuff, we think most of us think that he's he trains hard, he's on the top of the game every time, he's he's very gifted, talented, this, but despite all that, everyone goes through phases where it's difficult phases, right? Right, and the way you dealt with that phase was to kind of stay in the game, doing something or the other. First with swim, then with bike, and then slowly kind of got back to running and a bit of triathlon, sessions to just give yourself, a fair chance to compete because you have already signed up.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And yeah, like again, because this was not my target, so I was not really focused on like how I'll fare here. But since it's a good platform, right?
Right.
To at least showcase my like what I am capable of doing.
Right.
And I also wanted to have a good race, like because I could not do Berlin. I always had that in mind that at least since I was training for a year, I need to at the end of the year I need to have a good international race. So I didn't come here with any expectation that I'll finish at this position, but I wanted to push myself and give a good effort, good overall effort, and which I was able to do that yesterday. And
Right.
right from the start till the finish, I was able to push on in the swim, bike, and in the run. So that the outcome of it, like I'm really satisfied with what I did yesterday.
But before
In terms of like how the overall thing went.
Before we go to the outcome, which is of course fantastic, a win like that in a field that is very competitive with the army, services guys, Pablo and all, win is like the best result you could have. And, to get there, it took some effort. So how did the swim go? And the bike, I was there to watch the bike and cheer for you, but yeah, let's start with the swim.
So yeah, so when I was swimming, like in training, initially when I started, like I resumed like in 2 months back. So I'm a weak swimmer, like that's my weakling in triathlon.
I think we talked about that last time.
Yes. And since from pandemic, I was really focused on running. I never got chance to really work on that aspect anyway. So even when I started, I was actually preserving my legs in a way. So I was using a lot of doing most of my swim using a pull buoy, which keeps my legs afloat so I can work on my arms. Which in a way, I think it was at least in the beginning it was a right call because I had to work on my upper body. I had to work because I was not using it for a very long time.
Right.
So the initial few weeks I really worked on my upper body, and then when I went home I worked on the strength again on the upper body and core. But yeah, after coming back, the 15 days I thought, no, like I just cannot go this way because in the race I will not have a pull buoy.
Right.
I will have to swim. I'll have to stay afloat on my own, and I'll need to align myself in the swim. So I need to do a lot of kicking as well. So that was a challenge I had, and I was also a little, concerned about. Usually, like I did 7 or 8 70.3 races. I think half of them I have done without wetsuit, and I had a pretty bad time for all of them. Like I think the best I did was a 39-minute swim in Ironman World Championship Nice. And even then I was like, my legs were sinking. So I'm not a natural swimmer, and it doesn't come naturally for me to kick throughout the swim.
Right.
And since I have a lean leg muscles, they tend to sink a lot more than the other
there is no fat to help you
float, definitely.
Right.
So if I don't use my legs, I'll start sinking. So last 15 days I was working on that. was doing, and like, I didn't have a lot of time. I was doing a few kicking drills. I started, doing some sets without the pull buoy to get the confidence that I can do that.
Right.
And actually, just 3 days before the race, before that, I was only able to do like 100 meters without the pull buoy. Like I would get tired after 100 meters. So I'll stop. Like I would do 100-meter intervals without the pull buoy, but never able to like push hard. But before leaving for Goa, I thought let me just do a few 400 meters to see if I'm able to hold the pace for that. And I was able to do that. Like because it was again, I was maybe reluctant mentally not to go for that distance. I was telling myself I can't do it, but the race was so close at that point that I had to do it, and I could do that, and I could maintain a decent pace in the pool. And after coming back here in the sea as well, so ocean does give you a little bit of more buoyancy. So staying afloat is slightly easier
in the ocean.
And even with a lighter kick.
Right.
So that I don't end up fatiguing my legs so much in the swim, and preserve it for my bike and run. So I had a couple of both days when I was here, like Friday and Saturday, I did a swim just to get comfortable with ocean, and also to get a feel of what it is going to be on the race day. And for the first time, I felt very comfortable in the sea. I was not, worried about I was not anxious. I was calm. So I felt actually one day before the race, I felt really calm, and I was able to put a good pace with lesser effort. So on Saturday, I was feeling confident about myself. I was like, I think this is going to go well. Right. On the race day. Like I think I can do a 35-minute swim. Like my previous race was 39-minute swim, so I thought I can improve 4 minutes at least. So like the way I'm swimming, I swam on during the practice swim. Right. And it went well on the race day. With the race atmosphere, people are pushing themselves, and you try to keep up with them. And there's, even though I was not targeting a position, but you are competitive. I'm inherently very competitive. Yeah. So getting in the water, I felt because I mentioned I was calmer a day for the last couple of days. I felt now I think do well. I do well. I was confident about my swim. This is the first time, the first race I'm doing where I was confident about my swim. So I think that helped me push a little more. If I was not confident, I was slightly reluctant. I would have gone really conservative. I just need to get in and get out of the water. Right. So it used to be that way. The strategy used to be that way. But this time it felt no, I should race. I'm feeling comfortable now. I'm feeling positive about my swimming. I need to see how it goes. So I started pushing myself. I know I started ahead of the pack. A lot of guys and girls did overtake me, but I finished 32nd place in the swim. What was the time? With a 32 minutes. Wow. Split. And I was surprised, better than your expectation of 30. Yeah. 35. I was expecting 35. Yeah. It was 32. So I was wow, it went pretty well. Probably because of the competition I had and people pushing each other. I felt I need to push myself as well, and it got me to 32. And I felt pretty confident about that. And when you do that, you kind of take that confidence to your next leg. Right? No, I haven't lost a lot of time, because in the last edition actually I did a 45-minute swim in Goa. It was rough conditions,
Yeah.
but like I was like 15 minutes behind the leaders back, like 3 years back. Now I know I was like maybe 5 to 6 minutes behind the leaders.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I've gained 8, 9 minutes already here. So yeah, I can actually think of getting on the podium.
Right.
So at that time I was like, yeah, I can do this. I know my bike can run as strong. If I keep up this, if I can just sustain, I can maintain this gap, I'll be able to get on podium as well.
Right.
Even though like I finished 32nd in the swim, but I know like I'll push.
You can cover the places in the bike,
and run.
Yeah.
So yeah, on bike route. So yeah, like I was pumped up. My heart rate was high. On the go, not from the start, but maybe like few kilometers into the bike, I felt like I need to start pushing myself, and I went slightly harder than I would have. Like at least my perceived effort was that way. Like it was higher, and yeah. So and I held on to it. There was of course my brain telling me that yeah, you cannot hold this effort. You should slow down probably. But I thought like no, like if I'm not feeling too uncomfortable, I think it is in races you need to be uncomfortable in uncomfortable positions. But that's okay as long as I'm able to sustain this, and I want to have a good. I came here to have a good race, and not to just have not to just give an okay effort. So
right.
I was like, irrespective of how I feel, like I know it's feeling slightly harder than it should feel, but let me just keep at it and see how it goes. At the halfway mark, because of the crowd that we have here, like it was insane. The crossing that Miramar circle, people just cheering for you. That pumped me up again. Like at the halfway mark, I was before getting in that area, I was maybe contemplating to slow down the second lap.
Right.
But the crowd, the cheer actually pushed me. I actually went harder going out in the second lap. I was a little conservative coming back after the second lap because I know I had pushed myself enough and it is getting really hot. So maybe I need to conserve a little bit for myself for the run.
Right.
But yeah, like overall it was a good effort. I would have expected a slightly better bike time, but effort-wise, I felt like I couldn't have done better.
Right. So we were on the course, of course, on the top of that hill, watching you guys suffer. And I could see, I think the first lap when you went fast, you were almost, in the late, almost between 15th or 20th position on the, bike, I thought. And then, but, I knew that your swim was a little bit weak, so that was expected. I could see. But compared to the first lap, I thought you going out the second lap, like you were saying, you felt more in the rhythm. I thought, and then that was encouraging because by that time you covered quite a few positions, and you got into the top tens by that time. I think, right.
And another thing is that when I started my bike play, I was not really confident in getting on my aero bar because of the roads were not very smooth.
Right.
And I didn't have enough, triathlon and practice on my TT bike from last
few months.
Not few months, but last I did triathlon was in January. And that was this last time I actually rode the triathlon bike, and I'm riding it. Like maybe I did one outdoor session before this race on my TT bike.
Right.
But there was a slower effort on a much smoother road.
We could see that yesterday on the...
Yeah, so on the first lap I was really, reluctant of going. So I was like very cautiously, wherever I feel safe, I was going into it. But in the second lap I was like, no, I'm in this zone. I was able to, push through, wash away those thoughts that I need I should not be on the way, but I stayed on for the most of the part in the second lap. So that also helped me to stay in the zone
Right.
for the rest of the bike leg.
How many positions did you end up covering?
So by the time, I think my bike finished, I was seventh, but I had a good transition. So I was sixth out of when I started the run.
Right.
And
you had a deficit of about 7-8 minutes or more than that.
so it's 7 minutes from Vishwajit and Vijayan.
Pablo was the first one.
Yeah, he was 19 minutes ahead. He was 19 minutes ahead.
Right. He had a really strong bike leg. Yeah.
So he was like, he must have gained like 5-6 minutes on the swim and then another 12 to 14 minutes on the bike.
Right.
So by the time he started his run, he was like at least 19 to 20 minutes ahead of me. I knew at that time, when I started my run, I was like, even before I maybe have finished 1 kilometer, and I saw Pablo coming back. Like, he was like at least 4.5 kilometers ahead of me. And so I was like, it's okay, he's too far ahead.
Right.
But I knew Vijayan and Vishwajit are not too far, maybe 6-7 minutes I should be able to cover. I had in mind, like, if it is anywhere closer to 10 minutes, because since I've been doing a lot of running in last 2 years, I thought, my running fitness is much better than these guys. I can pull off a 7. If it is only a 7 minutes deficit, I should be able to get to second position. I went with that pace and with that effort that at least I can cover 7 to 8 minutes on the run. I mentioned, I put a really hard effort on the bike, but at least perceived
for yourself. For the perceived effort.
For the perceived effort, it felt like that. And it was really hot, sunny by the time we started. So I was still a little conservative. I was thinking, like, if it would have been a pleasant day, I would start at a 3:35 pace. But it was too hot, so I started at 3:50 pace. I started with that pace, and I said, okay, let me just stay in this 3:50 pace for some time, see how it goes. The condition got worse, but that was okay. I realized that I was anyways gaining time. I was closing the gap, even in the first lap itself. So before the first U-turn, at 3.5k mark, I moved from 6th to 4th position, and after the first lap, I was 3rd.
Right.
So, and I saw Vishwajit, he's like 200-300 meters ahead of me. I can cover this in another couple of kilometers.
Right. So we saw you on the second lap. By the time we got from the bike where we were, watching the bike leg to the run leg, you guys already covered 1 lap of 7 kilometers, and you were doing the second lap.
Yes.
And we timed you guys. Pablo was ahead still, and the difference between Pablo and you was 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Around that time.
I heard you shouted.
Right.
I thought after the first lap, I thought he might be 10 minutes ahead of me, but I think he considered the slowdown in the second lap.
He was struggling quite visibly. And by the time you went to the U-turn and came back, that from 3, it became 2.5 minutes. So that time we know that, okay, he's covering pretty fast. And at the time, we were not sure if it was the last lap or one more lap was there. And we confirmed that fact that there was one more lap. And then we knew that, okay, this is Nihal's race to lose now. Because he's going to overtake Pablo for sure. And no one else was in the same league in terms of running. And said, okay, this is Nihal's then. And we were like, okay, good.
Thank you for being there and supporting me on the hill.
Hill was brutal.
Brutal, especially the sun
beating down.
And I was like, I just need to get to the top, and then then I'll like the result. So I was slowing down. I was really conservative on those hills because I
Right.
know, like, if I push really hard, like if I push even a bit hard on the hills,
Yeah.
I might end up cramping. So I
Right.
didn't want to risk that. I was like, yeah, I have a good chance now to win this. In the second, because I first lap the hill, the climb, I went a little harder. But in the second lap, I was like, no, I have a good chance. Maybe if I go consider the same myself a bit in this climb, maybe I'll be able to cover it
Right.
on easy, like, or flat stretches.
Right.
So yeah, I need it work for me. So,
Yeah, absolutely. That was brilliant to watch. And you did what, 4 hours, 29 minutes?
4 hours, 29 minutes.
Then, is this PB or?
Yes, my PB.
Yeah.
So I'm, so my Ironman PB is 4 hours 39 minutes. So it was in Colombo again in 2019. But yeah, I did a Kolhapur triathlon Bergman in this year, Jan, where I did 4:33. So even from there, this is like 4 minutes improvement.
Yeah.
On a tougher condition. So Kolhapur is, the weather was pleasant.
Right.
Like of course it gets hot during, like, when you run, but the condition was like the overall conditions were far better in Kolhapur than it was here.
Right. Absolutely awesome, man. For someone who was like felt down and out, going, preparing for a Berlin Marathon, coming back like this, just by staying in the game, doing, whatever little possible, and coming out with a result like this is fantastic. Kudos to you and congrats
you.
again. And I see the whole athletes. Let's talk a little bit about that. And
Sure.
yeah,
So yeah, it's been so we started it this year around in Feb. So we have been coaching a couple of athletes before that as well, but we officially announced it in Feb. And yeah, like, it's going well. Like, because since I was, post-COVID, I was mostly into running. Initially, and then because I have tons of running experience, initially we got more runners into our coaching, and then I've also gotten a few triathletes. So, and now we have a mixed bag, both runners and triathletes.
Yeah.
And it's picking up well. Like, we started with 2, now we have like 12 athletes. So it's going well, and
I am sure it'll keep growing with
Right.
with the guidance from someone like you. A lot of triathletes and runners could benefit. I'm sure.
definitely I would love to help people around to get them to their personal best, push them
Not only to the athletic ability, but also physically and mentally.
mental
Like
ability.
the name suggests, the whole athlete.
Yes.
Guide, educate, elevate.
Yeah,
That's
the
a
motto.
great motto. I wish you all the best
Thank
to
you.
the whole athlete and to you as well in your personal athletic goals, as well as work and life goals. So all the very best, and thank you for taking the time and sharing your experience with the Working Athlete podcast.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
That was my conversation with Nihal. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are enjoying these podcasts and are finding them useful, please consider supporting the podcast by subscribing to the channel on YouTube as well as on your favorite podcasting app. It really helps. Thanks again for your continuous support. See you next week with another guest.